Hello and welcome to another episode of India and Global Left. If you're new to the show, please hit that subscribe button. Also consider becoming a YouTube member, a Patreon, or donate small amount given in the link in the description box. Let me welcome our guest tonight, Scott Ritter. Scott is a former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, former United Nations Special Commission weapons inspector, author, and commentator. Scott, welcome back to India and Global Left.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
I wanted to start out by asking you your assessment of the ongoing conflict between Iran and US Israel.
Well, first of all, it's a conflict that never should have happened, but was, I guess, inevitable that it would happen. Um, this is more than just a repetition of the 12-day war. This is an existential war of survival, and the stakes are as high as they can be. There will only be one winner in this war. And as I look at things right now, Iran looks as though it's on the inside track to win this war. This means that the United States will be defeated, humiliated, and compelled to retreat from the Middle East. Israel will be left alone, and the Gulf Arab states will have to purge their soil of American military bases. Now, people can sit here and say that's pie in the sky, but I dare you to contradict me on anything I just said. If you're the emir of any of the Gulf Arab states and you have been promised the guarantee of American security, and you're watching your cities and your docks and your airports go up in flames and there's nothing the United States can do to stop it, prove me wrong. If you're the emir of Bahrain watching the Shia population rise up in the streets threatening to overthrow you, prove me wrong. If you are the king of Saudi Arabia looking at your eastern oil fields ablaze, prove me wrong. If you are the emir of Qatar looking at your liquid natural gas fields unable to produce, prove me wrong. If you're an energy producer in the Middle East unable to ship your energy out of the Strait of Hormuz, prove me wrong. If you're Israel watching your cities get pummeled every day, every hour, prove me wrong. And look at Iran. They lost the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And all that did is strengthen them. There aren't people in the streets demanding the overthrow of the government. The Iranian people are rallying around their nation. And the Iranians have shown that they are more prepared for this war than anybody. So prove me wrong. I know it's not a popular position to take, but it's a fact-based position. It's based upon years of geopolitical analysis and military analysis. Unless something fundamentally changes in the way this war is being prosecuted, the United States and its allies will run out of ammunition in a few weeks' time. Iran will not run out of ammunition. Prove me wrong.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ammunition stock? There are reports about 3,000 to 8,000 missiles for Iran. Analysts are also saying that Iranian drones in particular, but also missiles, are cheaper to produce. They're quicker to produce as in comparison to US intercepting anti-ballistic missiles and radar systems, which are also costlier. So if you could give us a better sense of the ammunition stockpiles and the military strength of both sides.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that the Iranians have been preparing for this conflict for years. So we're not just talking about the need to produce. In fact, I don't think the Iranians are producing anything right now. I think that their production capabilities have been evacuated from the facilities and hidden away because they recognize the inevitability of the physical destruction of these facilities. But you can always pour new concrete. You can't replace the equipment. So if the equipment is safely hidden away, the United States and Israel will be bombing any empty facilities. But this means that Iran is not relying upon weapons that have yet to be produced. They've already produced them, and they've already stockpiled them, and they've already factored in attrition. They have produced these, the Shahed series drones, which surprisingly are being very effective against targets everywhere. They've produced missiles, advanced missiles. They have stockpiles of older missiles, and they have a strategy on how to employ these missiles to maximum benefit. The Iranians have already built this stuff, so it's a sunk cost. It's done. Um, but it didn't bankrupt them to do it, by the way. The United States, who is the premier supplier of interceptors, to give you an example, the United Arab Emirates apparently bought $2 billion worth of missile interceptors, and they're out, done, finished, gone, zip. And who replaces them? There's no production line right now functioning to replace them. The United States hasn't gone into war production mode. We've already strained the entire system supplying air defense systems to Ukraine. And now the Middle East is just shot through its load, and there's nothing left to replace it. This is reality. The United States itself has, stripped bare other theaters. I mean, when the president has to talk about we have plenty of ammunition all around the world, what he's saying is, so sad, too bad, South Korea and Japan, we're taking the missiles meant to defend you. Too bad, Taiwan, those missiles are gone too. And Europe, sorry, we're taking those missiles as well. So this is the reality. Iran fires a drone that costs $20,000 to produce, and we shoot it down with three interceptor missiles that cost $3 to $4 million each to produce. I'm not a genius. I'm just a simple Marine. I have trouble balancing my own checkbook at home, but that's a cost equation that isn't going to be sustainable. And this is the fact. But the most important thing to point out is that Iran has prepared for this war. It's already built all the weapons it's going to be using. The United States did not prepare for this war. In fact, the United States was warned off by both Israel and Saudi Arabia in January not to start this war unless you can finish it and guarantee an outcome. But we started the war nonetheless. It's a regime change war designed to bring down the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But we don't have sufficient resources. And as we saw, our dreams of what decapitation constitutes nothing, because the planners seem to believe that Iran functioned as a dictatorship of one. Ali Khamenei was it. And when you remove the supreme leader, the system goes away, which means they have never read the Constitution of Iran, and they have no respect for Iran as a constitutional republic. Instead of collapsing, Iran immediately went the direction that the Constitution mandates. The president, the head of judiciary, and a jurist appointed by the Assembly of Experts formed an emergency committee that will operate as the supreme leader until which time the Assembly of Experts picks a new supreme jurist. So, and it looks like by Wednesday of this week, there will be a new supreme leader. And the country, the people have rallied around the republic. So not only has there been no decapitation, but the government is stronger now than ever before, which means that the major objective of bringing about the end of the Iranian regime is failed. In fact, it failed the very first missiles that hit Tehran. The first 6 missiles that hit killed Ali Khamenei, his 14-month-old granddaughter, and some other people. We tend to say that means we won this war. It means we lost this war because we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. We achieved the exact opposite.
If this situation is so revealing on just the third day, I wonder what led the US to attack on the first place. Was it total misunderstanding about the layered structure of Iranian society and administration and how it functions, assuming that a decapitation of one leader would lead to some kind of uprising and regime change, quote unquote? Or is it the hubris of US generals who don't who overestimate their strength, or is it intelligence failure? What is it that led to this attack if just on the third day everything is so revealing?
Well, I mean, what we know is that there is an unprecedented level of ignorance in the senior leadership of the United States about Iran, about what Iran is, who the Iranians are, what the Islamic Republic is, what the role Islam plays in Iranian society. When you have Jared Kushner, 50% of the negotiating team, meeting with the Iranian diaspora in the United States to create a committee to pick the next leader of Iran while he's negotiating with the Iranians, by the way, about resolving the nuclear program, which sort of proved at the time that we weren't serious about negotiations, but that's a different issue. But the fact that we're turning to the diaspora for guidance on what the future of Iran will look like means we don't understand anything, because the diaspora is composed of people who are either the descendants of or the actual people who fled Iran in the late 1970s when the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah Pahlavi, was removed from power by the Islamic Revolution. Um, and these people know nothing of Iran. They have no support in Iran, and yet we're listening to them and believing them because we have fallen victim to our own delusional ignorance of Iran. Uh, we hate the Islamic Republic so much that we allow ourselves to ignore the fact that it is the single most effective functioning democracy in the Middle East. I'll say that one more time so the audience really understands what I'm saying. The single most effective functioning democracy in the Middle East is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if you don't acknowledge that and recognize that, then, I've always said you can't solve a problem unless you first accurately define the problem. And if we're defining the problem of Iran as a dictatorship of one, to eliminate the supreme leader means the collapse of the regime, we don't have a solution to the problem because we've defined it inaccurately. So there is this ignorance. Um, Now, that ignorance should be overcome by an intelligence community whose job it is to accurately inform leadership. But our intelligence community has become permanently crippled by the politicization of the intelligence process. We have seen this cancer infect the intelligence community back in the lead up to the Iraq War during the decade of the 90s as we manufactured a case for sustainment of economic sanctions against Iraq based upon weapons of mass destruction. And we failed to acknowledge the role played by the United Nations weapons inspectors, of whom I was a member, to achieve the disarmament of Iraq. Instead, we pretended that Iraq reconstituted a weapons capability and was posing a threat, and we went to war. The intelligence community, instead of telling their bosses what he or she needed to hear, the truth, they told them what they want to hear. That's not your job as an intelligence officer. And we have not, the intelligence community has been infected with this disease ever since, the disease of politicization. So now we have an American president who very much wants to go to war against Iran, looking for any justification and looking for support for the fundamentally flawed theories that underpin this military campaign. And the intelligence community, instead of telling him the truth, lies to him. You saw what happened when Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, tried to tell the truth about Iran's nuclear program, testifying before Congress, speaking the truth. But when the president was confronted by this, he said, she's wrong. I get my information from somebody else. Who? That's your director of national intelligence. There's no one else, no one higher than her, which means he's getting his information from Israel. So there's the other problem. Israel is fundamentally corrupting the policy-making processes here in the United States. Lastly, you mentioned the generals. Here I'm going to, push back. American military men are professionals. You're talking to one. Okay? When I went to war, I kicked your ass because I was better than you. I was better than you because I was professional, because I was prepared, because I studied you. I studied me. I knew my weaknesses. I knew my strengths. I knew your weaknesses. And I would do everything I can to close with and destroy you through firepower and maneuver. And if I couldn't accomplish the mission, I was honest enough to tell my boss, I can't do that with the resources available. Because my job wasn't to make policy. My job was to execute a military plan of action. And the generals today have told this president that they cannot accomplish this mission the way he wants it done, on the time frame he wants, and with the objectives that he wants. They have straight up said, we don't have the resources to do this. The director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was fired because he insisted on this. As we speak, there's apparently a revolt of generals taking place in the Pentagon. And there may be mass resignations, according to some news resources, because these people are saying, we are trying to explain to you, Mr. President, that what you want to be accomplished, what your Secretary of War is up there, proselytizing as religious dogma, isn't going to happen. Just because Pete Hegseth says it so doesn't make it so. There is a harsh reality here. And we don't have the resources to accomplish what you want to accomplish in the time frame it needs to be accomplished. So I don't blame the military. The military has to obey lawful orders. Even if you tell the president we can't do this, if the president says do it, then you must do it unless it's unconstitutional. And while there is no legal framework under international law to carry out this war, because Congress has punted on its constitutional responsibilities when it comes to declaration of war. The president has assumed unilateral executive authority that the Supreme Court has not contradicted, and the generals must obey the lawful order they're given, even if they know by obeying it they're going to lose the war.
uh, Given this ignorance at the level of political class, and given the politicization of uh, the top brass, including intelligence community and so on, and the lack of filtering up, let's say, information coming out of generals and military to the political class. And I'll add, given Iran has officially stated that it is not willing to negotiate at this stage because it wants to avenge revenge. Uh, what could be a way out if you are within the US political class? Would you double down and go down this path? Because Pete Hegseth and General Dan Kane said that no, there are no boots on Iran at this stage, but all options are open. What do you make sense of what could be a way out for them, or the path that they would follow?
All options are open. I would remind both of those gentlemen that you know, Pete Hegseth just cracks me up, Secretary of War, although that's not a lawful term. He's a Secretary of Defense. Um, he, in his embarrassing speech to 800 generals and admirals last October, I believe, in Quantico, Virginia, he said that his ideal warrior was a captain in 1993 or a staff sergeant in 1993. And the reason why is that to get to be a captain in 1993, you enlisted you joined in the early 1980s, mid 1980s, and you went through training in a military that was designed to win wars. And the same thing with the staff sergeant, the E6. You were there as a troop supporter. Um, Pete Hegseth was describing me because I'm that person. That's my rank in the time frame that I was in. That's my experience base. Um,
Like
and so
literally
as
you,
the person,
literally
pardon,
you.
literally me. Um, and I will remind Pete Hegseth that unlike I have won a war. He hasn't. He's lost two. And he's about to lose a third one. Um, but, so I am the epitome of the professional standard that Hegseth is setting out there. And so what I'm going to be, t- telling him is that you don't win wars by bluster and by words. You win it by being prepared. Um, Repeat your question because I got so caught up in 1993 that I forgot it. Just remind me of what your
Yeah, just
question
the
was.
way out
Oh, the
for
way out,
them.
an off ramp. The off ramp is always victory. I mean, you don't engage a war. The only military operation that actually plans for a retrograde is the raid. So we go in, we land, we do our thing, and we plan for withdrawing. But no military plan incorporates a plan for retreat because we just assume that we're going to succeed. If we're called upon to retreat, that means we have lost and we don't like to lose. Um, the way out here, though, isn't going to be through victory. We don't have the capacity. You want to deploy troops, boots on the ground. That was the point I was trying to make. That was my war. I was part of the people that planned an operation to send 700,000 people to the Middle East, including hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground to defeat Iraq in Desert Storm. You know, it took us many months to do this, of planning, deploying. We landed in airfields that were open. no interdiction, no problem. You could just land there, park your airplanes, get your troops off, assemble them, and move forward without any interference. Our ships landed in ports and were able to offload in a normal level so we could build up the force on the ground. How does Pete Hegseth envision getting American forces into Iran? What airfields are you going to land at, Pete? Because the last time I checked, every international airport in the region was closed down and under attack. All of the military airfields have been struck by the Iranians. Um, the operational environment is so unstable. You had to flee and leave all your airplanes. So where are you going to land, Pete? Where are your ships going to dock, Pete? Because the last time I checked, the ships in the ports that we would use are being hit and sunk. Pete Hegseth is a moron. And anybody advising him that we can transition boots on the ground to Iran is likewise a moron. We can't do it. Physically, we cannot do it. We lack the amphibious assault capability to do this. General Berger, former commandant of the Marine Corps, when he became the commandant, warned about this because when he became commandant, he reviewed his responsibilities as the commandant of the Marine Corps to have a Marine Corps capable of fulfilling the missions given to it by the National Command Authority. He read the National Security Defense Strategies and the Department of Defense directives, and he said, we can't do this because we are married to a legacy system of large amphibious assault ships where we put hundreds of Marines on it, have to sail it close to shores, and if they sink one of those ships, we're screwed. And yet, that's exactly what will have to happen here. We will have to forcefully seize an Iranian port. Then forcefully seize airports, and then seek to, offload hundreds of thousands of troops under fire. Now, this is something, we did, for instance, at D-Day in Normandy, but it took a long time to prepare. This is things we did in terms of, the island campaigns in the Pacific. But they were very bloody operations. And with the exception of Normandy, we never invaded a space as large as Iran. So let's say we land in Chabahar. Then what? You see, Pete, I'm the guy that actually helped plan that very operation, the op plan for Americans to put forces into Iran to respond to a Soviet invasion. So I've actually done this, Pete. And I'm telling you, it ain't going to work. You can't do it. So stop talking as if you can do it. You are going to war with what you have, and what you have is not enough. And you were told by your generals it won't be enough. Moreover, there are two clocks ticking away here. The first clock is availability of resources. As I said, they're running out of ammunition very fast. But there's another one too, because as we speak, Aramco facilities are ablaze. As we speak, Qatari gas terminals are under attack and Qatar has stopped shipping liquid natural gas. As we speak, the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. By the end of the week, Europe is going to be screaming. By the end of the month, Europe is going to be dead. By the middle of the month, Americans are going to be screaming. And this is a reality. This president will not be able to withstand the political pressures brought on him at home, domestically, and abroad, globally, about the consequences of this illegal war of aggression. And this is why it's so important to continuously point this out. Because people are like, well, who cares? Trump doesn't care. The world cares. Because you see, if Iran actually had a nuclear weapon to threaten international peace and security, the world would be able to tighten its belt and be willing to do what it takes to get rid of Iran. But this was a war of choice. It didn't need to be fought. Iran was already conceding everything necessary to ensure that they would never have a nuclear weapons breakout path. And yet we went to war. So, Pete Hegseth is sitting here talking the big talk. But even if we had 500,000 troops that we could ship to Iran, by the time we got them prepared to ship, we'll run out of ammunition and the world will be screaming to bring this war to an end. So the only way this ends is for the United States to acknowledge that its presence in the Middle East is no longer viable and that it will withdraw permanently from the military bases it has assembled. And this will coincide with the Gulf Arab states likewise saying that the United States is no longer welcome on our territory. And when this happens, Israel will be isolated and compelled to ratchet in its greater Israeli ambitions because the United States won't be there to hold its hand. And then and only then do I believe Iran will step down, because Iran can't step down anything short of that. This is a war of existential survival. Iran can't allow this war to stop, especially after the harm that has been inflicted, to stop and allow the other side to rebuild its strength and capabilities. Iran will win this war because the United States doesn't have enough ammunition. If Iran stops this war and allows for a ceasefire, the United States won't make that mistake again. Right now, Iran is going to win because we started something we're not in control of. Iran wins by continuing this effort because they are in control. They have prepared for this. They have enough missiles to continue firing after the point in which we run out of ammunition. And because it is existential, their people are going to be willing to pay a heavier price than, for instance, the population of Europe, which can't justify this war, wasn't prepared for this war, already is reeling economically from the consequences of their support for another illegal war in Ukraine. So Iran has all of the advantages here. Militarily, they're better prepared than the United States and Israel. Economically, they're killing the world economy right now if this continues. And politically, they are on the right side of history. They have legitimacy for everything they are doing. So this war ends with the defeat, the strategic defeat of the United States. Or the United States destroys Iran, collapses the regime. But I don't see that happening.
And does the American public opinion play any role in this, given in 2003, 2005, when the US invaded Iraq, most Americans rallied behind the flag, and it was only gradually, painfully, after the resistance from 2007, 5, 6, 7, public opinion very gradually started to change. This time around, there's a Reuters poll that says that more than 75% of Americans oppose this war. I wonder if, as more bodies start to come back home, would that shift even more dramatically against the war, and more importantly, would that have any impact on the ruling elites?
Well, first of all, when we speak of the ruling elite in America, we're talking about a nation that has foregone its status as a constitutional republic, and we currently function as a cult of personality with a dictator, Donald Trump, firmly in charge. The only way you can threaten Donald Trump at this point in time is by defeating him at the polls in November, at the midterm elections, empowering a Congress that is capable of impeaching him and convicting him. He's well on the path to accomplish that task because, right now Americans, are still, waking up in the morning and thumping their chests about Maduro and how wonderful that was and how easy that was and how quick that was. And they still are, drinking the Kool-Aid about how wonderful and quick and beautiful this will be. Yes, we lost 4 Americans. Yes, that's horrible. But, oh my God, we killed Ali Khamenei and we killed 46 Revolutionary Guard, and they're going to collapse. The Iranians are going to quit. They're going to quit. And then the next morning, we realize they're not quitting. In a week's time, we realize they're not quitting. And then when we start paying more at the gas pump, when we see disruption in our own commerce, I mean, what happens when the price of diesel goes through the roof and we can't afford to ship those fruits and vegetables and electronic equipment across the country, and the Walmart shelves go empty. Then people are starting to wake up, and then they will finally see that the words that are being spoken by Pete Hegseth, the president, and others are empty words, lies, that they've been lied to the entire time. And they'll realize there was no need for this war, that this was a war of choice, not a war of necessity. And they'll become enraged. And when they become enraged, they'll vote for anything but Trump or anybody who supports Trump in the midterm elections. And then we'll have regime change. This is a regime change war that's being waged right now. But unfortunately for the American people, they think that by killing Ali Khamenei, we changed the regime in Iran. We haven't. We just strengthened it. And for Trump, what he's going to realize is that when you run on a platform of peace, when you call yourself the peace president, when you promise not to get us involved in a never-ending war, it doesn't matter what Pete Hegseth has to say today, where this isn't an endless war. This war has an end. No, this is an endless war, and the only end it has is your surrender. And the American people didn't vote for you to get us involved in a war where we lose. And so I do think that there will be horrific political consequences for this president if he loses this war. And again, unless something dramatically changes, the one thing that we don't know, and now we have to take a step back, is, you know, and I think I've said it on here before you, the American military is very capable. I mean, if you don't think it is, then you don't know anything about war. Iran is getting pounded right now, pounded. The harm being done is unreal. The infrastructure being destroyed is, between the United States and Israel, billions of dollars of damage are being done. The Iranian government has prepared for this, but no plan survives initial engagement of the enemy, and the enemy always gets a vote. And so what we don't know is, are there unseen consequences of this action? Is the Iranian government as guilty of throwing out empty words as the United States? Are they promising a lengthy campaign of ballistic missile launches, hiding the fact that the United States blew up the vast majority of the missiles in storage? There's a lot that we don't know. But I will say this: the Iranian government has a history of telling the truth. The American government does not. And so at this juncture, I'm more inclined to believe those who tell the truth over those who lie repeatedly.
I wanted to ask you about Russia's role in this. There are some reports about Russian statements in support of UAE. These are indirect statements cited in Al Jazeera, saying that Russians have come out and spoken out against the Iranians in favor of UAE. I have no ways to verify the veracity given I don't read Russian. But on the whole, if you could tell us the Russian role and in what ways are they seeing this conflict panning out?
Well, I'd just like to point out that Russia has a strategic security framework with Iran. Russia doesn't have a security framework with the United Arab Emirates. So it would be very strange for the Russian government to take the side of the United Arab Emirates in this regard. Russia has a financial link to Dubai. As we speak, there are thousands of Russian tourists stranded in Dubai who are apparently having a grand old time skydiving in the midst of UAV attacks, because why not? They're Russians and they don't care. But Russia, we have to think about this in the big picture. First of all, Russia does not benefit from global catastrophe. Russia does not benefit from chaos. There's a lot of people out there right now suggesting that because the price of oil is about to go through the roof, that was Russia's goal all along. No, because that's reversible. Russia doesn't play the spot market. Russia plays the long game. I've spoken to a number of Russian ambassadors who have said that what Russia looks for is stability, which brings about predictability. That the world can be bad, tough, but if it's predictable, then Russia is capable of formulating policies to deal with those issues. What makes life tough is when you have unpredictability, when the situation is yawing back and forth and all over, chaos. That's not what Russia wants. Russia doesn't want chaos with Europe. Russia doesn't want the chaos with the United States. Russia is not even looking for the defeat of the United States, because the defeat of the United States would create a global vacuum that generates chaos. And that's problematic for Russia. So Russia's job in all this, from a strategic standpoint, is to engender stability, but engender stability in a way that ensures the continued survival of Iran as it is currently manifested itself, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Not only has Iran been an ally and a friend of Russia in its time of need, but Russia has, this north-south economic corridor that it's seeking to develop that's very important for it, not only in terms of the short-term economic benefit, but strategically, because it allows Russia to operate on interior lines of communication instead of being married to, sea lines of communication that can be interdicted by a superior American naval power. China Also, the new Silk Road linking Western China via rail through Central Asia into Iran, they have a vested interest. Their goal is the survival of Iran and stability in the region. And so I believe what they're going to do is understand that Iran has been placed not by anything it did or wanted, but by the actions of the United States and Israel into a war of existential proportions. Just as Russia has said that they can't accept a ceasefire in Ukraine that doesn't resolve the root causes of the problem of that war, Iran cannot accept a ceasefire in this conflict if all it does is sustain the root causes of the conflict, because all it does is guarantee that the conflict will happen again, but the next time the sides will be better prepared. So I think Russia understands that this conflict has to run to a certain course, a course that results in a fundamental change in the geopolitical alignment and reality of the Middle East. One that you know encourages the retrograde of the United States out of the region. Um, Russia also, I believe, will be seeking to constrain the Iranians in their use of the economic weapon. It's not in Russia's benefit to see energy security go out the window. Um, so I think the Russians are making a lot of phone calls, doing a lot of diplomacy behind the scenes. And they're there waiting for the opportunity when the United States says, we got to get out of this thing. We got to get out of this thing. And when they say that, Russia will say, okay, we can help you with that. Because Russia's not looking for the strategic defeat of the United States. Russia's looking for termination of this conflict on terms that are favorable to their ally and friend Iran. But they don't want to burn the house down to get that. So I think that's Russia's role right here. I mean, they didn't want this war to happen. They prepared Iran as much as they could to survive the consequences of a war. But now their job is basically to manage the chaos, try and bring order and stability, and be there to provide a diplomatic off ramp if and when the opportunity avails itself.
And will the Gulf state be in a position to accept this kind of Russian mediation, if you like, and accept not being a vessel of the U.S., or are they too dependent on the U.S. and would be unable to tell the Americans go get lost?
Well, we don't know how this ends. We're still just day three. We do know that there's, you know, um, large crowds of Shia in Bahrain cheering every Iranian missile that hits. What is the future of the Khalifa family? We do know that the United Arab Emirates is looking at economic disaster in the face. Um, so if you're looking at the collapse of your status as a economic hub, a banking hub in the Middle East, because you have aligned yourself with the United States that's incapable of defending you, do you think maybe it's time for a policy realignment, a policy adjustment? We're early on in this status, but I think what you're going to see are nations realizing that the United States is incapable of providing the security that had once been guaranteed. And once that becomes a statement of fact, a statement of reality, um, you know, you will make the right decision. Um, I also don't believe that the United States is going to be in a position to remain in the region. Its bases are being dismantled. By the time this is done, over $100 billion worth of American military infrastructure will be eliminated. Where are we going to get the money to rebuild? Uh, so it becomes sort of a self-solving problem where we leave because there's nothing left to fall back on. Um, and then the other thing is, regime change is a double-edged sword. I will point out that some of these regimes in the Gulf Arab states may not survive this war. Bahrain very well could fall. And if Bahrain falls, what kind of passions will be empowered by that? What happens to Kuwait? What happens to Saudi Arabia? I mean, never forget that if the Houthi become strategically engaged, they're fully capable of invading Saudi Arabia and occupying up to a quarter of Saudi Arabia and claiming it as theirs justifiably under history because it is theirs. The Saudis stole it. So the potential dismantling of Saudi Arabia, the weakening of the Al Saud family. Loss of control over the eastern provinces where the oil is. I mean, this is a problem. We can say the same thing for the United Arab Emirates. So, you know, these spoiled, perfumed princes that have been governing the Gulf Arab states for so long, able to leave their ostentatious lifestyles because of the security umbrella provided by the United States, able to secretly plot behind the back of the Iranians to stab them in the back. These people who made phone calls telling Donald Trump, do it, do it, do it, just win, do it, but make sure you win, are now confronted with the fact that Trump did it, but he's not going to win, and they got to pay the price. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the result. I'll throw in one more thing that they talk about. The unintended consequences of conflict. The British, in all of their imperial stupidity, have decided that they want to play a role in this conflict. That they have suddenly decided that they are pro-Israel. And so Iran has fired missiles against British bases in Cyprus. What did the Greek government do this morning? They're sending F-16 fighters. They're sending air defense. They're sending naval ships. Now, what do you imagine Turkey's response to this is going to be? Because the last time Greece deployed military forces to Cyprus, Turkey invaded. And Turkey is not going to sit back and allow Greece to do. So we may very well see in the very near term a new regional war between Turkey and Greece. And ain't that going to be pretty? NATO fighting amongst itself. And this will be a war of existential proportions because Turkey will go for the knockout blow against Greece. They're not going to put up with this. And then what is NATO going to do? NATO already distracted and weakened by Ukraine. I mean, again, Pete Hegseth is a moron because he started something he didn't understand. He got pieces rolling. It's out of control and chaos is broken out all over.
Who would imagine some Iranian missiles in Eurasia would open out the doors for such kind of chaos? We'll leave it
The
there.
Iranians imagined it because they know the world better than we do. The Iranians are better prepared than we are. The Iranians are smarter than we are. So I think the Iranians understand everything that they're doing. Ask yourself the following question. Why did Iran not strike Incirlik Air Base yet? Incirlik Air Base is the American military facility outside of Adana in southern Turkey. It plays home to the E-3 AWACS that are flying over providing command and control support for the defense of Israel. Why hasn't Iran struck Incirlik? And the answer is because Iran struck Cyprus. And if you put two and two together, you'll know exactly what's going on.
We'll
The
leave it
Iranians
there.
are smarter than everybody. It's just the way it is.
Indeed. We'll leave it there, Scott. This was really, really very helpful to understand the developments that are going on. And thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And let's just hope that I'm wrong about everything and that peace breaks out, the war comes to an end, stability, and people stop dying. But I do want to remind everybody that the opening salvo that was sent against Iran hit a girls' school that killed
100.
over 100 young girls. So if there ever is going to be revenge, just remember which side has the greatest justification for inflicting revenge on the other.
Indeed, indeed. And this has come after after the genocide in Palestine that we have seen.
Yep. Well, we know one side is fully capable of committing genocide. So,
We'll leave it there,
okay.
Scott. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful rest of the day ahead. Thanks.
You too.
Hi, my name is Ayushman. I, along with Jyotisman, have started this platform. In the last 2 years, we have tried to build content for the left and progressive forces. We have interviewed economists, historians, political commentators, and activists so far. If you have liked our content so far and want us to build an archive for the left, I have two requests for you. Please do consider donating for the cause. Link is in the description below. Also, if you are not able to do so, don't feel sad. You can always like our videos and share our videos to your comrades. Finally, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.